As U.S. President Donald Trump threatens Tuesday, it's Power Plant Day and Bridge Day all wrapped up in one. Some new questions are emerging about the legality of expanding the target set. Supporters argue these are legitimate targets tied to the regime's war machine. But critics warn of the risks to civilians and the blurred lines around so-called dual-use infrastructure. So where does international law actually draw the line? Let's try and give us some more insight. We're joined now by Professor Eugene Kontorovich, a senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Professor, let's start with the basics. Under international law, what makes a target legitimate in wartime, and where do power plants or bridges fall on that spectrum?
What makes it legitimate for wartime is if it has a significant use to support the military effort. And obviously, if it's a military target itself, uniformed, etc., that troops, that counts. But infrastructure, which is crucial to the war effort, has always been considered a valid target, and bridges and power stations have been struck, by Western countries in wars, routinely. The U.S. bombed power stations in Serbia and in Iraq during their air campaigns there. So there's good precedent for this, and really there's nothing new or controversial about it. Obviously, one needs to consider, as in every attack, uh, you know, collateral damage and damage to civilians, but that has to be balanced against the military advantage. Which, let's say, if you take out a bridge, which is crucial to moving troops back and forth, that could be also a massive military advantage.
So is there any gray line here, as critics are trying to argue? If a strike is aimed at weakening the regime, but it also impacts civilians, where does that fall on the line?
Yeah, there's always a gray line. Every individual strike has to be assessed, individually. But the law of war says it's not assessed individually by commentators, not knowing any of the information about, the actual intelligence and the fighting of the war, but rather the commander is obligated to weigh the advantage and make a decision based on what seems reasonable to him. As long as they engage in that process in good faith, it's valid. Right? This is not like there's not a uniform scale of bridge bombing. It's inherently subjective, and that subjective determination rests primarily with the attacking side.
Well, off of that note, I was going to ask how these standards apply in practice, because Iran is already striking energy infrastructure across the Gulf. They're indiscriminately targeting civilians with cluster bomb munitions. Is there a double standard? Are countries like the United States and Israel judged differently than actors like Iran?
So absolutely, the International Criminal Court is investigating Israel absurdly, but hasn't really done a thing about Iran. That's just one example, and it has jurisdiction over Iran, of course, because Iran has attacked vessels flagged by ICC members. It has it has killed people in villages in Judea and Samaria, which the ICC regards as within its jurisdiction. That's just one example. But everybody sort of, it doesn't really matter what Iran does because they're not going to be harmed reputationally by being accused of terrorism or war crimes. Everybody kind of knows that about them. These kind of accusations of the abuse of of the use of force really only work against Western democracies where there's vibrant debate around the pros and cons of the war, and these arguments can find some political leverage.
Could these arguments harm the United States and U.S. President Donald Trump if he does go forward with striking the various bridges and power plants as he's promised on Tuesday if a deal isn't reached?
I've seen no evidence that President Trump is interested in the armchair speculations of online international lawyers. Uh, the Secretary of War and the War Department are going to conduct the assessments of the military advantage and civilian impact of these strikes, and will carry out those strikes if they satisfy the law of war. As determined by the United States. And yes, it is the United States that gets to make that determination in the first instance. This is not it's not a sort of world opinion question. It's not a polling, the commentators' question. It is the good faith judgment of the commander at the moment, so I don't think this is going to impact President Trump at all.
Professor Eugene Kontorovich, a very important insight to continue to share, especially in these coming days, perhaps. Thanks for being with us on I24 News.
Thank you.
Well, coming back here in